Greetings, gods and goddesses in training. Welcome back to the channel. It is Uncle Makara, all relations. I'm at the Serpam Monastery right now. I'm still on my meditation retreat. Today's the final day. And I'm just thinking about this idea of being a state shifter, a shapeshifter, and constantly being able to weave and adapt myself like water. And one idea that I came across very early on in my journey was called the 0 point. 0 point of consciousness is basically like a quantum vacuum. It is like the womb of creation, if you think about it. So when you are entering 0 point, you basically breathe into neutrality, and there's no other layers or noise or distractions on top of what you are creating, okay? So this is the beauty and the power of 0 point, if you can understand it. That once you're there, it's almost like going on menu mode in the video game. And then you can like select a different avatar, right? Select a different character to move forward. And we are in Oversoul October. So this is the concept and the idea that we're working with. Is there some problem in your life that you're going through right now? Perhaps you're being misrepresented. Perhaps you're being character assassinated. Perhaps you're being, you're going through some kind of a problem with some level of miscommunication with someone else, or any issue. You could just name any issue right off your mind. And you ask the question, who would not have this problem anymore, okay? Which type of character would not have the current problem that I'm in anymore? And then you work towards building that and actually stepping into it, shape-shifting right into that. And you can do this via visualization. You can do this via many different ways. But one of the greatest ways that I've found is through something that we practice called channeling, okay? Now, channeling is a way that you actually access that emptiness. Well, Buddhists call it emptiness. Maybe the Taoists call it wu-wei. But again, it is that sense of neutrality, right? And so when we're thinking about this, we're really trying to relive and reinvent our lives in such a way that is going to actually help us in the long term. It's going to actually benefit us and make us move forward in such a way that it actually heals us, right? So if you think in terms of a healing prophecy, right, you will really start to make this process a lot smoother for you, a lot more easier for you, right? So one of the ways that you can practice this shape-shifting ability is you envision that your character already has that thing that you so badly desire or crave. You're attached to, you're clinging towards that thing. You already have it. How would your body respond? How would your nervous system respond if you already have it? It's already yours. Right? Maybe you'd breathe different. Maybe you'd walk different. Maybe you'd talk different. Maybe you'd move different. Perhaps there would be like a specific line that you could say to yourself, right? Came across a post today by Travis Magus, and he was saying in the post, and this is a great question I want to ask you guys too. If people were watching your movie right now, the movie of your life, and you had people observing it, right? What would be something that the audience would yell at the screen for? What would they be yelling at the screen for you to do? Right? Where would they cringe? Where would they clench up? Where would they be on their seats? And to understand that, you actually have to look at your character out of body, right? And imagine if you're like a fly in the wall watching your situation happen. Let's say someone is just mistreating you, abusing you, hurling insults at you. How does your character handle that? Maybe the way that your character handles it now is you just keep quiet about it because you don't want to give extra energy to that. But really, you're practicing not setting boundaries. You're practicing people disrespecting you. You're actually rehearsing that kind of a character. You see what I mean? But instead, I want you to think differently about this and actually start to envision and think, what would my higher self do, right? What would my higher self do? How would they respond in a situation like this? And once you think like that, you actually start to free up some internal tension, right? They have these things called knots in yoga, right? Where you lock up your system, your inner system, and your chakras can't flow. You can't really access this greater expansion of energy, and it kind of restricts you, like pulls you back, right? And an example would be like if you work 9 to 5 and you're just in cubicles in the big city, well, that's how your mind is going to be. It's going to be very rigid, very structured, and it's going to become city-like, right? So there's a difference between city boy and temple boy, right? Very different, because I'm noticing in myself that my behavior is changing while being here. I'm becoming much more flowing, much more effervescent, much more resonant, because I feel, as an audio shaman, I can hear the chanting of the monks in the morning. And so what am I envisioning? I'm envisioning that that's like my background noise, right? Almost like a radiator hum in the background. And that's my norm now, right? So I've internalized that state. And in the process of psychology, you can externalize something, right? You can look at, let's say, your addiction as a character, and you can actually have a conversation with it. Or you can internalize it, meaning you really envelop it and pull it into your being, right? And of course, you want to understand the different ways in which your character reacts to certain situations, aka your triggers. So once you make a note that these are my triggers, these are the things that really piss me off or make me respond in such a overly exaggerated way, right? Then you can start to understand that, okay, this is exactly what I need to tweak in my character in order for me to embellish and work with this, okay? So if we're working with this energy of that there are many parallel universes for you to tap into, there's a version of you somewhere that's looking at that problem and smirking at it and not really giving a damn, right? So let's say that, like a horror movie flick, they say, don't go in there, right? You know you shouldn't be doing that, and yet you still do it. You fall into old patterns, habits, idiosyncrasies, and the audience can smell the fakeness off of you, right? They can smell the inauthenticity, or when you're pretending, or when you have your mask on, your social mask on, trying to pretend and fit in and be a people pleaser and make sure that everybody is nice and comfortable, but you're not looking after your own vessel, your own self, your own self-care, right? So that's the secret, guys. I mean, most people are not really stuck. They're actually just badly cast in this character identity, because that's all they know themselves to be, right? Most people, they grow up in life, right? Why are so many people unhappy in this world? People are unhappy because they've been given somebody else's script of the movie. There's somebody else saying that this is how you need to be, this is how you need to behave, right? And we willingly believe them. We give up our own moral compass, perhaps our own ethics, right? Or maybe there's a time where you felt like, you know, you sold your soul for money or power or fame or something like this. But would your character actually do that if it was tapped into that 0 point and that true self? If you could access your God consciousness, your I am presence, would you be making the same mistakes that you're making right now? Or would you look at that situation differently, right? And that's the thing. We all struggle with the same issues in some ways. But we have to start to understand that we go through it in our own ways. And there's different solutions. Like, I wouldn't handle a situation the way that, you know, Indiana Jones would, or let's say a Shaolin monk would, or even Yeshua would, right? Jesus Christ would handle a situation quite differently. So in that specific way, when you're thinking about that character, you're tapping into what? Christ consciousness. So this is the idea. And this is kind of from the Master Key system, the idea that, you know, if you want power, you have a power consciousness. If you want, you know, to be a genius, you tap into genius consciousness. So it's all about consciousness. This is a game of consciousness. This is a movie of consciousness. So once you get that, you will really start to amplify the greatest version of you that knows what to do next, that knows the right answers, that knows that there are pitfalls and loopholes in your life, but you know that if I can just quantum shift, if I can move forward into this other parallel version of me that's already having the thing that I deserve, it does not have the similar problems that I do, I will shift, right? Early on my journey, you guys know that I was very kind of a lone wolf, right? I hadn't created a tribe back then, and I didn't really find people that resonated with me and these concepts and these ideas of like channeling and all these spiritual concepts. No one would really get it. Nowadays, people are starting to get it and wake up to these facts and ideas, and I almost felt like I was way too ahead of others, man. Like, I was so into the future that I did not even see what was happening currently. Like, and again, that created an anxiety for me, obviously, and I called it anxiety back then. But then I changed and transformed those ideas into me actually living at my edge, right? Because what if I am not the fear? I'm just the field in which that fear is happening, right? So this changes the way that you actually act, behave, and it makes you a little bit fluid, right? Dimensionally fluid, right? No, I'm not mentally ill, I'm just dimensionally fluid, you know? It's another way of thinking of it. But in a specific way, you might have seen some monks back there, all congregating, doing their thing, you know? What if you could be in your new universe so strongly that the old universe starts to fade away? Because whatever we impute, whatever we name, that is the truth, right? That is the reality in which we experience. So if you have a problem and you just stop putting your attention on it and you stop putting extra consciousness into trying to solve that thing and you focus on being the solution itself, the problem completely fades, right? But it's not the problem, as Jack Sparrow says, it's the attitude that we have around the problem, right? About the problem. So this is why you have to start to change your mentality, your attitude, your consciousness, right? So there's no reason for you as a mystic to try to copy somebody else. Like, if I copied some other guru, right, it wouldn't be the very specific flow state essence that I carry to this day. It would be very different. It would be very fragmented. It would feel like a copy or a clone, right? Or an AI version of me or something, right? Instead of the real deal, right? So you want to think in terms of what is the real deal universe that I can chime into. This time, cut, right? As the director yells, cut. This time you do it different. This time you double down on your authenticity, you see? Instead of actually questioning yourself and doubting yourself in that certain way. This time you're like, okay, maybe I can access this in a very more specific kind of framework that I'm giving myself, instead of understanding that, you know, it keeps changing for me every time that I decide something new. So decision, the word decide means to cut. So you have to work on cutting out all other options that are not serving you any longer, okay? And once you get rid of those things, then who you naturally are starts forming and being effortlessly. You don't have to try, because you are. You see what I mean? You see, to somebody else, this might not even be a problem that you are currently facing. Your current identity is facing a problem, right? Let's say you don't have enough money, okay? That's a problem. But what if you saw that situation as an initiation? What if you saw it differently, like as fuel? What if you saw it like training? What if you saw it like, I am going through this echo chamber where I'm going to find my greatest, most authentic wealth, so I don't have to go towards the quick, get-rich-quick schemes and try to make, you know, black money or whatever, like in an illegal fashion, right? So maybe I need to ride out my authenticity longer for my true wealth to eventually activate. Thinking about that differently, right, helps you. Now think about it in terms of, let's say, attraction and relationships, right? Let's say that you're like, a girl is hanging up on you and you know, every time you try to interact with someone, they immediately sense that you're being too direct or too indirect, or, you know, there's this balance, right, that happens at times. But what if you saw that situation that you were in as, this is just a joke, man, right? This is a comedy scene for me to laugh through. Not for me to like take so seriously, oh, I got rejected. No, what if your rejection was redirection, right? So you gotta really start to amplify this differently, to change your mindset around the things that you're doing currently. If you're being treated like a piece of furniture, stop being a piece of furniture, right? Shift into that version of you that doesn't need to attach to the concept of who you are. You see, the more you self-grasp and cling to this current identity of yours, you're going to stay the same and you're going to stagnate, just like swamp water stagnates, it rots, right? Over time, there's algae that grows out of it. So stagnant water rots. So this is why movement is so important. Being adaptable, being weavable, dropping something at the sense of a moment and picking up something else, right? Such a powerful concept. Now, this doesn't mean that you eventually become diluted and wishy-washy and drifting throughout your life all the time. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm really talking about is this next level of character development, because if you really look at the concept of character, right, and you really start to understand it, you know that the I am presence, or God, or source energy, whatever you want to call it, is giving you this overarching character from your oversoul and all these different themes and all these different, lessons and all this stuff coming on. But then, as you start exploring further, you start to understand that the character you're playing right now is almost the shadow of the I am presence. It's the parts of you that are trying to distort source energy and take all the credit for it and try to be that person, right? Oh, I'm him. Oh, I'm her. Oh, I'm the man, right? To put yourself up on a pedestal to feel better about you and your situation, okay? Let that not be you, because start to understand that the more you stay in that pity, in that victim mode, and you start complaining and ruminating and being in the same cycles, you can't state shift from that point, right? It's very difficult. If you've imprinted a habit over and over again, you're suddenly going to change it. But what you can do is you can sit with your thoughts and you can zoom out of your thoughts and look at it very differently. Almost like it was, let's say like a speech bubble in your mind or something like this, right? And if you really start to look at your character different, then you can actually start to evolve that character over time, right? So on our journey of life, we meet different kinds of people. We have mentors. We have, different people that interact, and start to connect in many different ways with us. So this is where we can actually start to build something that is going to create much more of a gravitational pull for us, right? Rather than us creating a very simple understanding, right? And if you have a different understanding to this thing, you're going to play this game very differently, okay? And once you play this game differently, you become the version of you that doesn't have the problems that you're still struggling with, okay? So change your state of consciousness, change your mindset, change your state of beingness by deciding and completely transforming yourself there, right? And see if you can internally just feel right now, where's that tension? Where's that block right now? If you become very, very present, very, very silent, you will start to feel there's a tension in my chest. My throat closes up when I think about this memory. This person said something nasty to me a week back and it's still looping in my mind. You can tell, right, what your system is going through. But what kind of a person would not have that problem anymore? What kind of a character does not ruminate and think like that? You see? And so this is how we keep shape-shifting. And again, you'll be difficult to pin down and catch, and you will remain unpredictable like this because you're authentically you, right? If you became a predictable person, you would be a robot, okay? So remain in that mystery, remain in the unknown, remain in the uncertainty and the variety of life. Do not stagnate, do not settle, do not start to feel that this is all there is for me, okay? Never get to that point where you feel this is it. No, it's never it. This is an eternal journey. It keeps going, okay? It keeps moving, it keeps on flowing, okay? So you gotta enjoy this journey. So make it the best journey, the best movie ever, right? This is what I keep saying, guys, but it's so key and so important. Make this the most epic movie ever told. If you can access this 0 point, understand that you will never be sold to anymore. You get that? Because you're already complete. Once you understand on this video game of life, I've already reached the finish line, right? This is what it means to die before you die, as the Ascended Masters all understood this. Okay, they all understood this. They have heavy levels of compassion. They have a deep sense of alchemy. They can transmute anything, right? And they have this sense of commitment to a greater and more grand purpose, a higher calling. And they keep just peering through the edge and going towards it, right? They want to cut out the middlemen. They want to go directly to God and Source. And this is what I'm asking you to do here on this channel, okay? You don't need me as a permission slip as Uncle Makara to tell you to wake up. You just need to decide and do it. And change characters, shift states of being. Be different. Let people challenge your new character. That's a big part of the transformation in the journey, right? So let's say that you've been shy your entire life and you now step into this confident universe, this character of yours, right? There will be your friends challenging you. Oh yeah, bro, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do that? What's the point anyway, right? They'll pull you away from it and shit. So you have to try to actually activate the version of you that doesn't give a damn about their comments, right? And then shift into that again. And then another problem shows up and then you shift again. And then another problem shows up and then you shift again. And this is the journey and this is the process and this is how you evolve and get better and, you know, you start to become epic as a character in your life, in your own movie. So I had to create this Uncle Makara character for myself, right? And fine-tune it. And it keeps getting fine-tuned. So remain that presence, that flow, that center point, that 0 point. And know that you can be whoever you say that you are, whatever you impute that you are. Okay? You are a mere name. So let that name be the most epic name in the greatest story ever told. Let's get it. Upward Spiral Gang. May we never be the same again. Take care. Us.